Hi everyone, Carolyn here. Welcome back to Encounter Encouragement. Tonight we're going to be talking about setting an example. Now this might be a good example or a bad example. The choice is yours. But what does it mean to set an example? To set an example means to encourage or inspire someone by your behavior to behave or act in a similar way. Now, this is happening all the time, whether you realize it or not. People are always watching you, they're listening to you, they're observing your behavior, and they're seeing how do you respond, how do you react, how do you lead, how do you set an example. So some of the ways that we're going to look at tonight, we've got 6 different ways that we're going to be looking at in which you can help to set a good example. The first one is by your attitude. It is so important to set the tone of any interaction with someone with a positive, polite, and friendly attitude. If you bring that from within yourself, it will come back to you. People are like a mirror. They are going to mimic what they see. And if they see a positive attitude, you will get a positive attitude back in return. Another way to set a good example is by setting expectations right up front. If you allow people to have a bad behavior in your presence, for example, you allow them to cuss at you, or you allow them to be a Debbie Downer all the time, or you allow them to be whining and complaining around you all the time. That is the behavior you're going to get because people will do what you allow them to do. So if you stop and you say, you know what, I expect a little better than that. I expect if you're going to whine or complain about something, that you're also going to bring a solution. So you can say these negative things that you don't like about what's going on, only if you have a solution to offer. Give me a possible fix for the situation, and then we can have a discussion. By doing this, you are setting the expectations of how people should interact. You are telling them that this is the behavior that I'm going to accept. Anything short of that will not be tolerated. And this helps them to then set expectations in their own life. Another way to set an example is to ask questions. This shows people that you want to know. You want to know why something is happening, why they do it this way. Where did you get that idea from? Show me how you did that. When is a good time for you? It shows that you care enough to understand what they're going through, how they've been there, how they got there, all of that, so that then they can have the understanding and expectation to learn from you, because they will then ask you why, how, who, when, all those same questions. So they're going to, instead of talk at you, they're going to ask you, because that's what behavior you have modeled for them. When asking those questions, you have to remember to listen. Sometimes people speak between the lines, and so you have to hear what they're not saying just as much as you hear what they are saying. So listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, figure out what's going on deep down inside, see if you can bring that up a little bit more, and it just goes to show them that you care. And they are going to then model that behavior again in the way they handle and deal with other people. They will then want to treat others fairly and ask them, what's going on? How did you get to this position? So show them that you care by listening and asking questions. Another way to set an example is to never ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do. Now, this is especially important as a leader, but you also have to remember there's a difference between what you are willing to do and what you are able to do. For example, in the restaurant business, let's say someone called after hours and said, "Oh, my daughter lost her retainer. She left it on the table and now we can't find it. Can we please have somebody look through everything that was thrown away?" I'm willing to put on a pair of gloves and an apron and go dig through the garbage to find that retainer. I'm going to ask somebody else to help me. But I'm not going to ask them to do it if I'm not willing to do it. Now, if that same retainer fell down and was way behind underneath one of the counters, I have a hard time getting down. Well, it's not getting down to the floor, it's getting back up. So I might ask somebody to do that instead of me doing that, because it's hard for me to get down on my knees and get back up off the floor. So that's something that I find more difficult to do. I'm willing to do it. I'm just less able to do it. So by telling people that you are with them in this situation, whatever it is, that is setting a good example, and they're going to then model that behavior in the future as well. And I think the most important way to set an example is to always do the right thing in the first place. No matter what the situation is, if you do the right thing, you will always be setting a good example. Always, no matter what it is. If it's the right thing, it's a good example. And remember, there's always people watching, always people around the corner listening. Someone is going to hear you. Someone is going to see you. Somebody is going to watch your behavior. They're going to see your attitude. They're going to hear the way you question and listen to people. They're going to see how you respond, and they're going to learn to mimic that behavior and set a good example themselves. So, what is an example of someone who set a good example for you? Can you think of somebody immediately in your life who set a good example for you? How have you set a good or bad example for somebody else? Now, we're not always perfect. We might try, but we're not always perfect, and so I'm certain that even I have set a bad example at times. But hopefully these tips will help you to set good examples for people, because the behavior that you portray will be mirrored back at you. So you always want to set that good example. I certainly enjoyed talking to you tonight. I look forward to talking to you again soon. But until then, you all have a very blessed night. Thanks, y'all.